Alright, welcome for another tutorial in Photoshop. So here's what we're doing today. We're going to take and create this Sports Illustrated poster, if you could call it that, just focusing on the selection tools. And I'm going to turn on our sports layer. Now we're going to cover Refine Edge. This is just going to be a quick introduction. So what I'm going to do the circle, I'm going to click in the middle here, and then I'm going to do Shift and Alt, and I'll drag out a circle here, and then once it's done I'll move it over into place. And I could even just, you can hold Shift and Alt to add to your selection, so you could make this a bigger circle or even a square. That's fine. Instead of cutting Alt-X, you would want to actually do Control-C to copy and then paste it on a new layer, just Control-V. To cut and paste it, so now it's on its own layer here. And for right now, I'm not going to name it yet. I'm going to hide this layer though so that we can see it. Okay. Then I'm going to use the Magic Wand tool, and I'm going to select the white. I will then Control-Shift-I to select the inverse, or you can go to Select Inverse, and that'll select the opposite. And I can even test it, just by dragging with the Move tool, and I've obviously got the tennis ball selected. Now, if I just hit Delete to delete the outside or delete the white, it's going to look raggedy. So the whole point of this now is to use Refine Edge. So with the selection tool selected, I can go to Refine Edge here on the tool specific bar, or I could go up to Select and then go Refine Edge right here. Now, this brings up this options box, and what I'm going to do is change the viewing mode here. We have several that you can go through. The ants, overlay, black on white, black and white, on layer, and several layers. Alright, so I prefer to use on black, being that you can kind of clearly see some of the detailing here. So I got to click off of it now, but it's got on black selected. And I'm going to do Control plus to zoom in. Bring this a little bit center, and then Control plus. Okay. Photoshop freezing up a little bit. There we go. So now I can kind of see the black is what it's going to mask, and then here's my object. So I still got some white junk going on here. So what I'm going to do is turn on Smart Radius, and I'm going to increase this. And so what you start to see is it starts to make this transparency with the fur on this tennis ball. So I then can do smoothing too. Now in this case the tennis ball, that doesn't really look right, so I'm not going to do smoothing, but you can test it. Feather, you could test feathering, which kind of does smoothing but fades it. Then we have contrast. If we brought that up, you can really see. Of course, too much is bad. And then edge, shift edge. So this takes the edge that we have in here between where our mask will be and the actual tennis ball, and we can shift it. If we go forward, it goes outward, whereas if we go backward in the negative, it brings it closer, the masking, to the tennis ball. So I don't want to go too close though, or too far. Right now I'm thinking -10. I kind of like that furriness going on. Now at this point I would hold spacebar and drag around the tennis ball to make sure that it looks good all the way around the tennis ball. Then I click Decontaminate Colors, which we'll talk about more later. This is more important with a hair and the backgrounds, which we'll get into explaining, but for now we'll just turn it on. Output, new layer with layer mask. And then we're going to hit OK. Now, it created a new layer here with the mask, so I'm going to name this one Tennis Ball. This layer I can just delete, and then I'm going to turn on my black layer. So now we can look at this, and you can clearly see, oh, there was the edge of my selection. So to get rid of that edge, you have to select the mask thumbnail, use the paintbrush with black, and go around and just mask that out so that it's not on there anymore. You just be careful of that edge. So right here, that looks really good. Kind of looks like a grassy ball. So that's great. That looks pretty good. So now, this whole layer, if I would have finished that, I could move this wherever I would need that to be, and it's good to go. So then I would go back to my sports layer, and then what I would do is go ahead and cut out every single ball and copy them and create their own layer right away, just so I have them all cut out. And then I would go through and start doing refine mask for each one. Let's go ahead and do one more just so we can see. So some of these, like this golf ball, is going to be a little bit harder because it's white on white, right? So let's select the outer of it, and we're going to do Control X, Control V, hide that layer, go to my magic wand tool and select the outside. Now it's getting a little bit of the ball up here, so maybe I want to bring my tolerance down to, I don't know, maybe 5. That looks good. I'm going to actually deselect before I get too far in this, and with my paintbrush I'm just going to go ahead and paint that lettering out because I don't need that. Now I use my magic wand, select the white, and that looks pretty good. Then we'll go ahead and do refine edge up. Forgot, I've got to select the inverse. So now I've got the golf ball selected, so Control Shift I, or you can go to select inverse. I'm going to go to refine edge. We could do overlay this time so you can see it in a different view. So we can click show original or show radius back and forth to give you a different look into it. I'm going to turn on smart radius here again and bring this out a bit, so we want it on the outer edge here. And let's just see what some of these are going to do. So don't really want to do feathering too much. Try maybe smooth just one. Let's see, I like 2. Right, and then let's go ahead and do shift edge. Let's see. I am thinking that looks good. Let's take a look over here. We got a little bit of bleeding over here where the mask is, so let's see. And it looks like without this radius, it's actually doing a better job, so I might just leave that there. I think I like that. They're decontaminated colors. Let's go ahead and try that and see what it looks like. Alright, so here again we have our layer. I'm going to call this golf. Gotta select the layer or the mask thumbnail, and then again with the brush with black I'm gonna paint out. Got my opacity down, so turn it 100. And that looks pretty good. Now I might switch the colors here and just touch that up just a little bit. Alright, there we go. So now we got the golf ball, we have the tennis ball, and the Sports Illustrated. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this layer, and then we would go ahead and continue with selecting another one and going off of that.